Shalom, shalom, kingdom people. Grace and peace. Blessings from on high. May the Lord open up your eyes with wisdom and understanding. Purify your vision this morning. This is a new day with new mercies. New grace is being poured upon you. Today is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it, for he surely has done great things. He has done great things. You don't know what he has done that's great? Look in the mirror. You were made with beauty and honor. You are that great thing that he has done. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say, rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. And again, I say, rejoice. Blessings. It's Apostle Terrence, Chief Servant, Kingdom Media Foundation, Think King. What's going on, good people? I don't know if you all checked in and saw, but Apostle Bernard Bolton and I have written a book called The Watchman Revolution. It's coming out soon. It's definitely a different book. It's not a book like any book you've read before on Watchmen. Definitely prepares the way for a new generation of Watchmen and what we can expect from them, and what the Lord is doing to raise up prophetic and creative people. So if you haven't checked in on our websites, go ahead and track with us, and we'll give you some more information later on that book. And that's just the beginning of many to come. Apostle Bernard Bolton has Watchmen on the Walls International, a creative community of people. And if you want to talk about somebody who has a great understanding of creativity and how the Spirit moves upon people with revelation, you have to track with Apostle Bernard Bolton. It's I say unassuming, because if you look at him, you might just see, okay, he may look like an old school Baptist preacher, but whenever you actually hear him speak, that's like that fresh manna, that fresh revelation. So yeah, I like the brother. It's good, people. But what I want to talk about today is the roles that preserve a community. I'm going to talk about the roles that preserve a community. Last time when I was talking, I don't even know if it was the last time or the time before that, but one point recently I was talking about different types of leadership. And I was talking about how different leaders can flow in different ways. And I want to build on that understanding and just talk about roles that preserve a community. When I use this in this way, I'm not just talking about believers, I'm not just talking about church folks. I'm talking about any people group that have been assembled or that are labeled or looked at as a community of people, have certain roles that sustain them and that have sustained them for years and years. There are certain types of people that a community needs in order to preserve itself. Certain types of people that a community needs in order for it to survive. Because understand, a group might start out with 1, 2, 3 people, 5 people, whatever. It might start out, but in order for it to become a community, in order for it to become a subgroup, in order for it to become a society, or to become something that may even grow into a nation, there has to be certain things in place to preserve it, because it's like the wild, wild west. At first you try to start something, or you try to be something, you try to identify collectively with a group, and it's like in the wild, or it's like in the jungle. You know, you have these predatorial institutions or things that will try to devour you and say, you don't belong here. Then we're gonna contest you. We're going to see if you really can stand the heat, or we're going to kick you out. We're going to devour you. So it's different roles that are in place to preserve us or to preserve a people. This could link to the LGBT community. This could link to the hip hop community. This could link to religions. It can link to Hinduism, Buddhism. It could link to Baha'i faith, Jehovah's Witness. It can link to Mormonism. It can link to any group of people that exists that want to remain relevant in a culture, in a diverse society. A diverse group of people need certain roles to sustain it. Certain roles. One of the first roles I want to talk about is the radicals, because that's a popular topic when we talk about radical Islam. One of the roles that sustain a group of people are the radicals, because what they do is they produce a certain level of fear, and they produce a certain level of, if you try to kill us or if you try to devour us, we will bring physical harm to you. Now, this is not just for Islamic people. There are Christian radicals. Some faiths don't really have radicals like that. Like, you don't really hear about Buddhist radicals or Hindu radicals in the sense of they're going to bring the pain, right? But there are certain groups of people in a particular demographic or subgroup that will bring physical pain, that will bring physical warfare to preserve itself. So you want to mess with us, we are going to blow you up, or we'll blow ourselves up with you, or we're going to go in and shoot up everybody, or we're going to go and blow up a abortion center, or we're going to do something physical to strike terror to let you know we're here to stay. So there's that group of people within the society. But I also want to talk about, there are other kinds of radicals, because there are people who have been radicalized but are not physically harmful. And that's the dangerous people, because there are people who've been radicalized in their ideology. However, they could be the diplomats of a community. And the diplomats of the community, they excel in the progress of the community by mixing it up with other people that are not like them. Now, they could be just as radicalized as the radicals, but their approach is not to fight with bombs and guns. Their approach is to fight with negotiations and with giving a presentation of unity. You know, a lot of the, let's use Islam as an example. A lot of the peaceful people in Islam, and I'm talking about the ones that are connected to radical Islam, a lot of the peaceful people who have a peaceful front still support the radical ones who are blowing up folks. But it's not politically successful, it's not politically smart to outwardly say that they support some of these things. I'm not saying everybody, but what I'm saying is there are people who agree that there must be this jihad, there must be this holy war, but their role is not to be the ones fighting. Their role is to be the ones saying Islam is peaceful, while at the same time on the underground they might be throwing money at the radicals, or giving them a safe haven, giving them a place where they can hide, giving them refuge. But that's not just for Islam. There, in religions, there's a lot of believers who are very, very strong with an opinion, but they smile and they make you think that everything is well, everything is good, but yet they are in support with the radical means of taking out a people, or the radical means of taking out its competitors. This is just the different roles in society. So you have to know, just because somebody is not outwardly wild and crazy, it does not mean that they are not radical. Let's look at the contrast just for a moment. I'm not going to stay on this, but look at the contrast between Obama and Trump. Now, many would say that Obama is civilized and Trump is like a radical, a wild man, off the hinges, right? But I would argue that Obama is just as much radical as Trump, if not more so, more radicalized in his progressiveness, in his liberal ideology. But yet he's civilized. He was the best one to be the president because he was the best one to represent how progressiveness can be civil, right? So, but you have different kinds of people. You can have 5 people that are liberals and progressive, but you can have one group of people, and I say the brawlers. They're the ones that are out there, and they will fight you if you try to discriminate against them. They will fight you. They're gonna do something violent to you, or they will verbally assault you and abuse you on the internet. Like I said, this is not just for gays, or it's not just for Islam, but it's even for saints. There are people who will argue and use great colorful words to fight you for what they believe in. All these people exist in a society. I'm about to connect it in a moment and tell you why this is important. Tell you why it's critical to understand that. So you have the radicals, you have the physical brawlers, the fighters, and you also have the diplomats. You have the merchants, and these are the people who they get their religion or their faith or their community, they get it to go forward by making product or building an economy for the community to survive. Building an economy. Look at hip hop for a moment. There was a time when hip hop, and what I'm really talking about is communities going from underground to being above ground and becoming popular, being able to be seated at the table as a reliable or as a meaningful king or ruler on the seats of culture. So you have hip hop that was started out underground, started out in poverty, but then they began to get on. Once they got on, they started merchandising their the artifacts that preserved their legacy, or the artifacts that really brought in increase. So they're making songs, making videos, making CDs, making shirts, building brands and T-shirts and jeans and all kinds of things, paraphernalia that support the culture, right? So whenever a community begins to build an economy, for itself, then it's trying to make sure that it's going to last, that it's going to be preserved, that it's going to remain. So it's very important to understand that these things are happening, and these things happen all the time to preserve a people. So you have the merchants, and there are people who's like, how can I make some money off of this? Okay, the fads and phases of worship, Hillsong, gospel music, the gospel choir, the ensemble. These things are fads or phases or moments in the time of worship, and somebody takes the opportunity to encapsulate it or to capture it, to build an economy around it. So it's not just a moment in time, but it becomes a thing. It becomes a move. It becomes a brand. It becomes a genre. And then they can build an economy around it, and that will help to preserve the people. So that's why you have these different types of Muslims. This is one of the greatest things that the LGBTQ community ever did, is that they merged themselves as a community. You say lesbian, gay, that's basically the same thing, except they're trying to make it 2 different genders. But if you're lesbian, then you're still gay. But so to create some kind of collective community so that their interests can be the same, even though they're not the same. So, there is a difference between being gay or claiming that you're gay and then being transgender. One of them is dealing with self-identification, The other one is dealing with what they say your sexual orientation or what you believe that you're attracted to. So those are different things, but if we can just go ahead and merge those things together, then we can unify and collectively combine interests. That's what a community is. It's a group of people who will combine their interests together so that my interest becomes your interest, and even though they're different, they're slightly related, or we can put it we can make it related so that we can build a community by it. Well, there are people who made that happen. There are people social engineers who made that happen. But this happens in all communities, whether it be among faiths. So then this is why you have people that are part of the ecumenical movement, where all the faiths can come together. In other words, our combined interest is religious liberty. So I'm going to combine with the Christian, the Muslim, the Catholic, the Hindu, the Buddhist, because we want to fight for religious liberty, or we want to have religious tolerance. We will become an ecumenical movement where we'll all sit at the table and see how we can work together to combine our interests, whatever our shared interests are. So this happens in different ways. And this is how the LGBT community has really gathered a lot of its strength, is because it combined itself, or it attached itself to the real civil rights movement, claiming that it's the same thing. It got black people and black civil rights leaders like Coretta Scott King and others to buy into the fact that it is the same thing, to help legitimize that struggle. So in doing so, now you have black people that's fighting hard for gay rights because they see it as the same thing. and whenever somebody is having a dispute, and if a black person actually has a dispute with whatever the case may be, they'll say, I can't believe that you of all people will not identify with gay rights because of the struggle you went through. So they somehow found a way to combine the issue as if they're the same thing, or if they are equal. Like somebody rounded up a whole lot of gay folks and put them on boats and ships and made them slaves and beat on them and raped them and did all kind of stuff to them for centuries and centuries and committed psychological warfare on them, and even when they said that they freed them, continued to discriminate against them, and so really to compare homosexuality with the struggle that African Americans have gone through is very insulting. Not just because it's gay, but one thing is not true. It's not true. There's no way that you can compare those type of things, but they found a way to do it. And since they found a way to do it, then what that did was that helped legitimize the cause, and that's why we are where we are today. Then you also have another role of the comedian, the clown, the joker. Sometimes they can be looked at as the buffoon, but the clown comes out as an ambassador to make that community not look as bad. So, and also they'll laugh at themselves, they will clown themselves to get the society familiar with and get society accepting of laughing. Like, calm down. Yeah, this basically the role of the clown is to say, calm down. We're not that different. We all can laugh at the same things. I can laugh at myself, and if I can laugh at myself, then you can laugh at me. And if you can laugh at me, then we can have a discussion about the real issues underneath. So the clown appears to be a clown, but the clown is very serious because the clown has an agenda, and the agenda may not always be evil, depends on what it is, but the clown has the agenda to come in and break down your defenses. One of the best ways you can break down somebody's defenses is make them laugh. So we know that one of the pivotal points and one of the very critical points in that community was Ellen DeGeneres. And President Obama just said that the other day when he talked about why he gave her the Medal of Freedom award. because if you can show up and be in people's face and make them laugh and be in their living room every day, and you can be pleasant and sweet and kind and funny and bring the party and the music all the time, you're breaking down defenses. You're breaking down any kind of walls that people had up. But I mean, different communities have this. Black people for the longest served as entertainers, and when they were looked at as not even all the way human, but at the same time, they were the source of entertainment. And so that entertainer keeps them wanting us, keeps them wanting to be in the midst of us. We're providing that social comfort. And the idea is that over time, we can break down their defenses, break down their walls, and shatter boundaries as long as we can be a part of the conversation, as long as we can be in the midst. So that's one of the things that you see as well when you start talking about things that will sustain a community. You need a clown. You need a comedian. You need a Flip Wilson. Now, they might make you put on a dress. They might make you put on some makeup and make your voice go up high. They might make you get in drag or whatever. But the idea is I want to be a part of the conversation, so I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to get in there. So these things happen in societies. You have different roles. You have the radicals, you have the comedians, you have the diplomats, then you have the double agents. You have the people who pose as if they are a part of you, and they even pretend to claim you, really so that they can exploit you or that they can use your platform. And then once they're in good enough, they're going to come out. And after they've come out, they've already gained an audience. They've already gained a platform. So many of us, or many of the people, will not reject them. They won't reject them because you were of us, even though they flip on you. And so you got a lot of double agents. This is what the believers feared in the early New Testament, when Saul, who was now Paul, had converted, and they thought that he was a double agent pretending to be one of the believers so that he could spy out what they were doing so he could murder them. And that's why one of the reasons they were afraid of him, because they knew that that's what he was, a Pharisee of Pharisees. They knew that he was a part of them rounding up believers and killing them, having them slaughtered. And they thought that his conversion wasn't real, but it was fake, so that they could get in. So that's a strategy people use to pretend to convert to your faith or to your doctrine or to your culture, so that they can get all of the detail and the intel. And then once they get in there, espionage, once they get in there, they can exploit it. Speaking of espionage, we see that Obama went on and pardoned so-called Chelsea. I forgot his real name, the transgender guy. But pardoned him on the way out. Where Snowden didn't get pardoned, but Snowden wasn't transgender either. So anyway, so we have different people that have been radicalized in different ways. However, they express themselves in ways that will cause the community or the people group to be preserved. So it's very important to take a look at that and to see how all of that goes down, because it's happening all in our eyes. Another role is the role of the priest. Even among atheists, I'm including atheists in this discussion too. It's the priestly role. These are the people who spiritualize things that the rest of the community do not see as a spiritual issue, but they're the ones who go deep and make it spiritual. So you have atheists that are so radicalized that they will have churches for atheism. These are the ones who are not just comfortable saying, I don't believe in God, but you always find them going back and forth on chat rooms and in discussions about God and why God doesn't exist. And their conversation is, they talk more about God than the so-called believers. So they've spiritualized. They've made it a part of their campaign to enter into apologetics and become apologists for why there is no God. So therefore, atheism has become their religion. For some people, atheism is their philosophy. And for some people, atheism is their culture. There's a culture that comes along with every ideology. The atheism, they like to hang out with these people and talk up and just be a part of a community that says we don't believe there's God. But then, there are other people who spiritualize or make it religious, make it a religious experience, make atheism their religion. It's my religion, but there's no God at the top of it. But we know that there's always a God in a religion. But my point is that every group of people has its priests. So that's why it's very dangerous to say that you know what a group is about, because you might be looking at the secular version of that group. Because on the flip side, every group of people has its secular members. So somebody says, I'm a Christian. For those I'm not in the religion, but for those that are in religions, they say I'm a Christian. And for those people, you have secular Christians. So though they say they're Christian because they were born into a Christian family, or they were born into a Christian, they're part of a Christian experience, for all practical purposes, they are secular minded. But you have secular Muslims, you have secular. So, a lot of times when people are arguing about definition of how people are, you got to understand you have these different roles within those communities. You have to look at all the roles. You can't just look at one, because there are certain ones that are meant to perceive it as secular so that they can secularize it, because that's a way to survive in a secular society. All right, so you have those, but then the priests are going to spiritualize it. And then you have those people who are going to merge, I call them the mergers, because they're going to merge it with things that already exist in society so that the faith can be sustained. Like yoga. Like those who decided to connect yoga to health and working out and all this good stuff. It's a great strategy. Yoga is religious. It's a spiritual activity. But once you connect it to fitness and health, you've preserved it. And the deeper people can go into it, it's like a gateway. The deeper that people can go into it, then they can get into the spiritual side of it. So it's like, if you look at it, it's kind of like with these different communities, you have the ground level, and then if you keep going up, it's almost like the secret societies. If you keep going up in the knowledge of it, you're going to meet the different roles that are inside of it that are preserving it. And if you go up high enough, you'll start dealing with the priests of it. And the priests a lot of times are unseen. The priests are not seen. The priests are deep in the deep culture, the deep side of it. What you usually see are the evangelists of it, the televangelists of it, the telemarketers of it, the ones that are selling their yoga fitness programs, and the ones that are doing the yoga classes, right? That's the evangelist side of it. So you have evangelists of every society, the ones who bring out the propaganda, the ones who make it digestible, something that can be digested by the mass market. But that's the watered down version of anything. Anytime you see something on TV, whether it be telemarketers, televangelists, mass marketing, whatever the case may be, you're always seeing the watered down version of it. You don't really get to know the deep version until you start going beyond that which is propaganda and getting into the nooks and crannies of the organization. That's where the priesthood side of it is. These are the roles in all communities. In all communities. So let me see. I'm about to get out of here, but let me see. I think I had one other one I wanted to talk about. This could be under the priestly role too, but the teachers, the educators, the ones who present material, and this can even the scribes. of an organization or of a people group. The one who preserve information, preserve a legacy, who chronicle their success, who chronicle and document. Remember Woodstock, remember the 70s. That the reason why we know about those things is because those things were captured. Those things, those concerts and those festivals and the peace, love, and unity and all that kind of stuff, that stuff was documented, right? But then there's also teaching and paraphernalia and writings and books and other things that preserve a people. So I'm saying all this, talking about roles of society. What's the point? The point is you play a role in some kind of community. In some kind of society, you play a role. My question is, what is your role? Are you the clown? The one who likes to crack up and break down people's defenses so that you can slide in your real agenda? Are you the diplomat, the statesman, the one who puts on the face and make it seem like you're not radical while at the same time you have a strong agenda but you're civilized so that you can get in places that other people can't get in? Or are you the brawler? Are you the fighter? Are you the one that's willing to punch somebody's face in if they come against your God, or if they talk crazy about your God? Or somebody willing to go on the internet and blast people and troll people's pages to fight them over the things that you believe in? Or are you one of the priests? Are you one of the ones who develop content and connect deep theology to the community that you belong to? Are you just a passive person that's part of the member that is observing, a part of the crowd? Because in every group there's also just a crowd that goes along with what other people are doing. Are you just part of the crowd that's observing and basically going with the masses in the organization? Think about it. What role do you play in your communities? Are you a double agent? Do you I forgot about this. One of the greatest strategies that can be done that have been done for centuries, even with kingdoms, is when two opposing views get together and marry each other and have offspring, so that offspring can be bi. They can be bi. I'm not talking about bisexual in this, but they can be bi. Like they can be Christian and Muslim at the same time. Therefore, they carry two agendas because they have an affinity or an affection for both. I'm not saying this can really be possible, but in their mind, they're perpetuating something that is a union, conjoined, a two-headed beast that conjoins two conflicting or opposing views, merges them together, and then perpetuates that. Christian and Muslim, having both of those things, trying to merge the two. Are you a part of that? Are you trying to be both of something? Are you trying to be both male and female at the same time? You see what I'm saying? Are you trying to be atheist and a theist at the same time? Are you trying to be secular and kingdom at the same time? So confusion. Whatever it is, find out what your role is and find out what it needs to be. And are you repping the community that you say you're a part of well? Because there's nothing wrong with being radical. But when we become radicalized to the degree that we are doing it in a way that's contrary to the kingdom of God, we're already out of order. But then there's different gods. So you may not be out of order for the God that you serve. But that's what we have to contemplate. The roles that preserve a community or a society. Grace.